who is a sober coach, who is doing an incredible job to helping people to have a different journey around quitting alcohol. And it's something that I am very passionate about because I struggled with. And it wasn't until my cancer diagnosis that I realized that I had a very unhealthy relationship with alcohol. And there was no point in trying to, lie to me anymore about it, that I needed to quit completely. So today we're going to talk about this and how can how Molly helps people and how she can take them on a journey to doing something that I believe is one of the most important things that one can do for their health, really. Hi, Molly. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, Angelica. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing your learnings. I know that you have learned through personal experience, which I think it's always more powerful than anything because you have been in your client's shoes, so you know exactly what it takes and the whole process, the journey. So I think that's very, very powerful. So tell us a little bit about what was your life like before you decided to quit alcohol completely.
Yeah. So it was really boring, honestly, because like every evening when I would get home from work, it was, got to let off that steam, got to relax, got to make dinner for the kids. And I was married for several years. The marriage wasn't, I don't know, like I entered the marriage at a point in my life where I was drinking heavily. So clearly, like I wasn't thinking clearly about that. Um,
Yeah.
and I mean, I was just drinking every single night. I would stop on the way home after work and pick up, I was a beer drinker. So I was drinking beer on the way home. I was not cognizant of why I was doing it. It had become a habit, and it felt good. It was relaxing, and that was just my evening. So I didn't really feel like I had the opportunity to go out and do healthy activities. Like going to the gym was just like, no way. I've had too many to drink. I can't even leave the house. Um, and that was many years, probably almost 15 years of my life. So it started
Wow.
before I even had kids. And I was just like in this pattern of unhealthy relationships. I had some trauma early in my life that I just wasn't dealing with. And,
Mm.
early point in my life in high school, when I was introduced to drugs and alcohol, it was just like, oh, well, this is how I can be this outgoing and fun person. And I don't have to feel all of these feelings and this pain that I feel from like my dad was me and my dad just have like no relationship whatsoever. He formed relationships, like very close relationships with my stepsister. So that was really painful for me. Like I would just think to myself, like, but I'm your daughter, like, why can't you
Yeah.
be with me? So early on, I developed a way to mask those painful feelings,
Hmm.
and life continued on, and I was in these relationships that weren't healthy. I wasn't happy. It just continued on, and before I knew it, it was a habit. It was just something I did every day.
Yes.
And I didn't think about it. I didn't really question, why am I drinking too much? Am I
Yeah.
relying on it too much? It seemed so normal, so
Yeah.
okay. You see it everywhere. Everybody's doing it. After work, people are going to happy hour. It's
Yes.
ingrained so much in our society, in everything we do, from like baby showers to like little kids'
Yeah.
birthday parties to, I mean, just everything. And so I never really, like I said, I never really questioned, maybe I'm drinking too much. I did have a neighbor that lived across the street from me. This was probably about 12 years ago. My oldest son was in kindergarten, and she's just like a non-drinker, not because she had a problem with it or anything. She just chose not to drink. Like maybe once a year for her birthday, she would have a glass of wine or something. And I was like curious about that. I was like, what?
Yeah.
That's so
Like,
foreign.
well, how? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
This boring person, right? Weirdo. Like, she doesn't do what everybody else does, right? How does she cope?
Wasn't boring at all. She was like she was very involved in her church and her kids' activities, and she was always gone, always on the move, always doing all these fun things. And I think that's what planted the seed. It planted this seed in my head, like life can be really good without alcohol. And several years went on. I got divorced. I became single. I kind of I feel like I went even more into a depression and relying on alcohol. Like, there were many weekends where I was hungover and I would just start to drink first thing in the morning. So it was like an all day thing. And that would go on for like 2 or 3 days at a time. There were times, so like COVID, this was like pre-COVID, but people were, like, my boss was like okay with us working from home quite a bit. And so I just took that as an open door to like, oh, well, now I can drink while I'm working. So I would be on, like Teams or Zoom calls, and, I just have my drink over here at the side so nobody could see. And I don't know, it was just getting so bad. Like, I had a great job. I have a really nice house. I live in, the suburbs. So from like the outside, everything appeared fine. Like, I even had people tell me after I decided to get sober, like, I didn't think that you had a problem. I didn't know that you really even drank that much. So, like, on the outside,
I think what you're saying, it's so important, because it creeps up on you without you even realizing, isn't it? Like, again, for me, it was like when I was, 15, I had trauma as well in my family. We went from having a lot of money to having nothing. In my house, I saw my parents like struggling. And the way I found to cope with that, it was exactly the same. Like, okay, well, when I drink, I don't feel anything. I have fun and I can forget about everything and I just can numb my feelings, right?
Exactly.
But before you know, that becomes a habit on how you cope with any stress that comes into your life, right? And then you go into your 20s and you're still doing that, 6, 7 years on, like I started when I was 15. By the time you're 20, it's like 5 years drinking. When you talk about binge drinking, people think, yeah, but that's okay. That's only the weekend. Well, I went out every day. Like, I don't know how I did it. Mom said, you used to say to me, like, how do you, wait, I used to get home at 5 o'clock in the morning. I had to wake up at 6 to go to work when I was in Brazil, and I did. When you're young, you can do those things, right? You can do those things.
Yeah.
But of course, you can't you can't do that anymore. But I used to do that nonstop. Like, it wasn't a problem for me, just running my body to the ground, and just, putting all my trauma like in deeper and deeper and deeper, boxes inside me. And I think, like, when I met my husband, we were living in England. There was a massive culture of drinking. The weather is really, cold and rainy. Everybody's all about drinking. The same thing, it's like nobody sees there is a problem. Even if you said to them, I drink every day, but it's only a couple of glasses, or it's only a glass, it's only a bottle of wine. Before you know, like, my husband and I will be drinking like 8 massive like cans of beer plus 2 bottles of wine on a Friday, on a Saturday, on a Sunday, on a Thursday. It just becomes it creeps up on you, and then you're spending more and more time hangover, feeling terrible physically and emotionally. You don't realize it takes such a toll on you, right?
Right. Yeah. So it was like you're compensating for the hangover. I mean, I would like sweat profusely under my armpits. Like, I would get up in the morning And I don't know how I did it, but I would be hungover, and every day I'm getting up, like I wasn't sleeping in. I would get up early, shower, get ready, and I'm like sweating bad, like my hands are shaking a little bit, and I just feel like, well, this is just my life. This is what I choose to do.
Wow.
I'm just going to do it. And it was just like, no thing, I just didn't question it, even though I had these physical signs all
Yeah,
around
yeah,
me.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I had a lot of sweating at night as well when I was living in
oh
England. And I know now it's because your body's trying to detox from, of course, all the alcohol that you're drinking. And yeah, my bed would like be wet. And,
yep,
it's your body telling you, like, I can't, like, I need to do something to get rid of
yeah,
all these toxins, right?
exactly.
It's really interesting you say that, like, this is my life. This is what I have to, accepting that. I think there will be so many people listening to this that will be in the exact same situation, thinking that they wake up with a hangover. Perhaps they are already having physical signs and thinking, shaking or sweating or whatever it is, you know, like, how do you make that change from going, this is my life, to actually, this is actually not okay?
Well, that's a really great question because it looks different for everybody. I feel, I mean, I'm sure so many people have heard the term rock bottom, and I really hate that term because it it kind of it makes it makes the point of when you decide that you need to get sober really far away. Okay. So
Hmm.
somebody could choose to get sober and not hit rock bottom or whatever. Like, what does
Yeah.
that even mean, honestly?
Yeah.
I You don't have to be homeless. You don't have to be living on the streets, begging for,
Yes.
change so you can go get a bottle and drink all day. Like that is not reality. I mean, so I really want to get rid of the term rock bottom because, like I said, it looks different for everybody. For me, it was it was my son. My son just like called me one day. Like I had been on probably like a 2 or 3 day bender, and I wasn't at home, and I was like drinking in my car on the side of the road, and he just called and just, checking up on me, like, where are you? And he could tell that I was really upset. I had been crying. I mean, I was suicidal, just because this was my life. And it was just
Yeah.
like, really all there is. And it was really depressing. I wasn't happy with my job. Like I said, I was recently divorced, and there was just, I wasn't going on dates, but it was like this dating
Yeah.
pool of, it was just very gross. I just really started feeling disgusted with myself.
Yeah.
Um, and there wasn't, like I said, there wasn't any major life change. There wasn't any, like, I didn't get in an accident. I didn't get a
Yeah.
DUI, anything like that, that made me just say, oh my God, this is it. It was my son. He was just like, I want you to come home. I want you to be here with me. And I don't know, just like the universe or God or whatever it is, just like smacked me on the head and was just like, okay, this is it. You've got to stop. And the light went
Amazing.
off, and that was it. It was just like, I
Yeah.
just made a decision, and I called my mom because, like, I have a really close relationship with my mom, and I knew that she would support me. She flew
Yeah.
out, stayed with me for a couple weeks. My boss was really supportive. I was very vulnerable
Amazing.
and open with him and let him know like what was going on. And
Wow.
I took time off work. I took like 7 weeks off work to get sober and like get my act together. And I mean, it was the best
Amazing.
decision I've ever made in my entire life. Like, I will never look back and say, gosh, I wish I could drink again, because I don't. Because I
Yeah.
know that I can't handle it. Even if I tried to just have like one here or there, like,
Yeah.
who am I kidding? One is definitely going to turn into like a case or a whole bottle or whatever it is. It's just not good.
Yeah, I think, wow, that's incredible. Like, thank you so much for your vulnerability to sharing this with us, because I think not many people will be open to doing that. And I think it's so important, because those stories are the ones that can change, can help people to change and make people see that, like I said, you were not living on the streets, you hadn't lost everything, you're not begging for money, you actually had a job, you still had a house, you had everything. But just in any opportunity, you were drinking and just getting yourself into a state of, of being completely drunk, but you still showed up to work, and you were
Yeah.
still kind of trying to show up every day, like, which is insane, right? It's high
Yeah.
functioning, the high functioning alcoholism, that nobody talks about. There
Yeah.
is so many people living like that. So, and you'll probably notice that sometimes I see people, they are shaking, and and they're just high functioning. They're a job, like they're not doing anything. They're not, like you said, they're not living on the streets.
Yeah.
And I think that it's so important for people to realize that, yeah, there isn't, you don't have to be a certain type of person to realize that you actually cannot handle alcohol. Alcohol is not only a poison, but it's also is addictive. But it's just
So,
happened to be a legal drug that you can
right.
buy in every corner around in the world.
Yep. Yeah. Definitely.
That's so. What happened in those 7 weeks? Like, how did you even go about it? How did you know what to do?
Well, I didn't. So at first I thought, well, I have to go to rehab because isn't that what people who have, an
Yeah.
addiction do? Um, I was talking to my ex-husband and, it's like at least 30 days at an inpatient treatment center. Like you have to at least do that. And just the thought of not being around my kids for 30 days,
Mm.
like he wouldn't be able to take care of them. Like I don't know who would be able to take care of them. So that was off the
Yeah.
table. Um, I looked at outpatient treatment. There was a place here. I live in the U.S. and there was a place in
Yeah.
the city I live, and it was a place that people who get arrested go to. So it was not really something that people are voluntarily checking themselves into, if that makes
Oh,
sense.
okay.
So it was a scary place for me. I didn't
Yeah.
feel like I could be myself there. I didn't feel like it would be therapeutic or healing or anything.
Yeah.
So I started going to AA meetings. I went to an AA meeting every single day for probably 4 months. And I didn't feel like that clarity you get after you quit drinking. You start noticing things about yourself and you
Yeah.
start, kind of wanting more out of life because you realize that you have this ability to achieve more now, to be a better person. And I didn't
Yeah.
feel like getting that in AA. I'm so thankful that it was there because it got me sober. But I left after probably about 4 months. I just kind of
Mhm.
realized like this is a very masculine type of environment.
Yeah.
The people there was a lot of older people that had been sober for decades, and they would say like
Yeah.
if you don't stay in AA, you're going to go back to drinking, and I didn't like that frame of mind. I'm a very much
Yes.
open person. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and so I was just like, this is just
Yes.
not my people. So I jumped into, just some self-discovery, like meeting other people that were sober. This was after COVID, so you couldn't
Oh,
really go
wow.
there. So everything was all online. Did a lot of reading,
Wow.
a lot of self-reflection. I taught myself how to meditate. I did a lot of journaling. I did everything on my own, just trying to maintain the sobriety as well as, personal growth. I feel like personal growth is huge in sobriety, and doing things differently,
Yeah.
So that was really key to my recovery.
Yeah. What would you say it is kind of one of the biggest kind of like driven factors for people to, um, to keep on that unhealthy relationship with alcohol, apart from, by the time you are in your 30s or even 20s, it has already become a habit, right? Like it's the coping mechanism that you found, to deal with your own self, your own trauma and your hurt and all of that. Like, by the time you are like, you have kids and stuff, what it is still kind of the driven, what drives people to keep doing it and not quitting.
Well, I feel like there's a few things that hold people back. The uncertainty of what your life is going to be like without
Yes.
alcohol, and it can literally be crippling. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't know how to take that first step. And you're the term white knuckling it, you don't know what to do. You don't know what to do with your time, because if you think about it, it was like right after work. So as soon as I would leave
Yeah.
work, time I went to bed, that's like 7 or 8 hours. So now what am I going to do with all that time? So that's kind of like one of the things that holds people back. It's normalized in our society. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
goes back to that rock bottom thing, like, oh, well,
Yeah.
I'm as bad as that person, comparing yourself to people that are worse than you, I feel can be really dangerous. And
Mm-hmm.
having other people that say, well, I don't think you have a problem. I feel like that's really dangerous too.
Yeah.
Our bodies
Especially
are,
when they drink every day, right? Especially when they drink every day
oh,
and they
yeah,
have a problem as well. Like it's like
exactly.
taking advice from people that, they are not okay with themselves. That's why they drink, and they want you to be part of their journey, because if you're not part, then they will see their own inadequacy. And they're
Exactly.
gonna realize, like Molly stopped drinking and I have to, like, what am I going to do? Because I know deep down I need to stop drinking. And that really highlights to people. So they want to keep you in their gang, right? Like they really want to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. And, I've seen that personally, and I've seen that with some of my clients, people that are married. If they quit and their spouse
Oh yes.
doesn't, that's really hard. I've seen, friends like constantly, hey, come to happy hour, even though you've told them like you're not drinking anymore. It's hard to break those patterns. And some people are afraid, well, I'm going to lose all my friends. And, well, are they your friends if they're not going to hang out with
Yeah.
you because you're not drinking? Or is it just really a drinking buddy? Um,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that, I feel like prevent people from taking that first step. um, I feel like a lot of it is also ignorance. So
Yes.
there's been a lot of studies about, wine is good for your heart, or, things like that, which is absolutely ridiculous. And by the way, there has been a much larger recent study come out that there is zero amount of alcohol that is good for you. As you know, obviously, and I'm sure you tell
Yes.
everybody how many cancers it causes. I mean, the anxiety, it screws up
Anxiety is bad.
hormones, it makes you depressed, not to mention, legal ramifications. So if you're
Yeah.
drinking and driving, you think about all the money that you spend.
Yes.
You gain weight because your body's not digesting food when you're drinking. I mean, like all of these things that, I feel like our healthcare industry doesn't talk about.
No.
Um,
No.
you have to you have to be like me or you, like somebody that has done this extensive research to realize the damage that alcohol is causing
Mm.
so many parts of your body, your relationships, your
Yeah.
finances. And I just wish that more people with authority were having these types of conversations as well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic, isn't it? Because I used to work for a beer company in Brazil, actually. They used to represent Pepsi in Brazil and was one of the biggest companies, you know. And working for this company was actually like a status, like you work for them, like they are just a big company. You know, they are a massive company, you know, it's a very well-known company. And I was thinking to myself the other day, would I work for that company again? And the truth is like I wouldn't. How would I represent, you know, alcohol and of course Pepsi for sugar and you know chemicals and all the rest of it? Like I wouldn't. And there was the culture was, you know, work hard and the play hard was just straight away, just drink hard, you
Yeah.
know, and the thing is like this is no of course the government is getting, you know, all the taxes from it, you know, like e- every country that I lived in, that culture has always been there. You know, like I lived in Spain and it was a big culture of drinking. I lived in Belgium, a massive culture of drinking and the beers that are super strong, you know, and again, I was a beer drinker and, you know, and you just, everybody drink in England, you know, in New Zealand, here in Australia, like it's ingrained in us unless you are, you know, if you're not drinking, you're not having fun. That's it. Like you're boring. Because isn't it like you? Who are you?
Yeah.
You know, like well, how you gonna party? How are you gonna be part of this great fun life? You know,
Yeah.
like that. You know, nobody talks about the truth. And you know, I was thinking about the first time I realized that drinking was such a poison was that I was in hospital after my emergency surgery, and I think we talked about that. And this, you know, young nurse was looking after me. It was a guy. He was like, you know, all like really cool, and you know. And I said to him like, "Oh, it's just a Friday night, and I bet you wish you'd be drinking with your friends instead of looking after me." And he said, "I don't drink." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, no, I don't drink." And I said, "But
Yeah.
how come?" And he said, "Well, do you know that it takes 3 hours for your liver to detox from 1 unit of alcohol?" And I went like, "Oh." And then all of a sudden, I thought about all the years that I had been drinking, you know, from 15 to 38. And I thought, "Oh my God, help me here. I just need to, I can't drink again." Like this, it was like planting this seed and just the whole tree all in one. I thought, you know, this is insane. Like I've been abusing my body hard with alcohol.
Yep.
There's no point in trying to lie to myself about it. There's no point in saying, you know, sugar coating and going, "Oh, but you don't drink too much." You know, like look at some people, they drink a lot more than you. There was no point in doing that.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, when it comes to people, you know, being scared to change, and you really have to look at yourself as an individual, isn't it? Like you're saying, like it's, can you handle it? You know, is this something, you know, one glass of wine like your neighbor every 6 months to a year? It's very different than one glass of wine every day of the week.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting you touched on, would I go back and work for this company? So I've worked for a lot of different companies in my life. Um, and just this week, I was telling you before we got on here, there was like this they called it this organizational summit. And so they were flying everybody in that was working remotely, and we would have like presentations and stuff during the day. And then at the end of the day, they had an activity that, they wanted everybody to go do. And it is hard because you want to be a part of that culture. You
Yeah.
want to be, I wanted to meet and hang out and like get to know some of my coworkers that, I only see on Zoom during the week. But every activity they had revolved around drinking.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating to me because, everybody buys into it. They're like, yeah, we got free
Yeah.
drinks tonight, or,
Yeah.
let's go drink. And like the next morning we get up and we go to the summit, and you could see the people who are just like dragging. They were tired, they were hungover. And like, I love the morning. The morning is my favorite time
Yes,
because it's
me too.
quiet. I have energy. I get a lot done in the morning. I feel great. I'm like, yes, let's have an amazing day. And I just remember those days waking up and just, like, oh my God, I got to go to work.
Yeah.
This is awful. And I feel for those people because, they've bought into this lie that alcohol equals fun. And
Yes.
I mean, everybody has a different perspective on fun, but I feel like it's party or no fun. Like there's no alternative. When I know
No.
that you like to have fun, I like to have fun.
Yeah.
I also have learned so much about myself. Like I don't need to be out in social settings to enjoy myself. I just wish that people could get more creative in, some of these
Yeah.
work environments instead of, oh, it's happy
Yes.
hour. Like we're drinking. That's what we're doing today.
Yeah.
It's like we're doing every
Um,
day.
yeah. And I think, my old corporate job, like previous to starting my business, was working in recruitment, which is sales. And I mean, every celebration revolves around getting completely plastered. There's
Yeah.
no, it's not like, having one drink. It's like, okay, let's celebrate. We achieved our goals and our targets. Okay, that's an opportunity for everybody just to be on the floor. And
Yep.
it's seen as completely normal by our culture because it's free. That's what we do. And I think it's like when you're looking from the outside, you realize that it's another way people just following the cultural standards just like sheep. They are not waking up to the fact that, this is actually something that, it's poisoning your body. It's not giving you anything. That's
Yeah.
the truth of it.
Yep.
When you say like how I used to wake up like this even after 2 drinks at the end of it because I had run myself, to the ground so much that I would drink a couple of beers on a Thursday. I would wake up on Friday and think, "Oh my God, here we go again." Like, is this it? Is this it? Like life?
Yep.
And I didn't realize it was already affecting my emotional, mental health. Of course, I was growing a cancer inside me as well. Like so, it was like my body was struggling big time.
Yeah. Yeah. I was reading some of these comments. Michelle says, "You're so right. Fun isn't linked to alcohol, but that's how it's seen." And I mean, I wish we could change that narrative. I wish more people talked about, well, I am sober and this is what I do for fun. So I did end up going to dinner one evening this week
Yeah,
with the organization, and it was at a bar, of course. Um,
yeah,
and and it was so boring. I mean, literally everybody's just sitting around drinking, just talking. And I was just like, this is not fun. I don't know why people associate this to fun. I
mm,
left way before, I'm sure people got out of hand. I had heard some
yeah,
stories,
yes.
but again, Michelle, like it's not fun. In fact, it's really boring. You're sitting around
Because
and as
yeah, the
as a
more
sober
drunk they
person, if
get,
you're
I know.
listening to these conversations, you're just like, what? Like, this is not interesting. This is not fun at all. And I would much rather, sit on my back deck with a kombucha and pet my dog and like listen to some good music versus, spending $100 at a bar and feeling bloated and hungover the next day and can't remember what I did, or oh my gosh, I said
We
something really ridiculous to my boss or whatever. So yeah, I appreciate your comment.
I totally agree with that. And I think that, for me, when I think about, I have had meditation practices, and that doesn't happen every day, that I have been higher than in any other alcohol session or drug
Yes.
session that I've ever had.
Yeah.
And I'm not just sitting here, just, bragging about this. I've been meditating now for 5 years, and then when I think about, why I drank so much, it was really to numb, my feelings because I couldn't handle it. And you can live like that for so long. It will get to the point that you won't be able to live like that anymore. And that's
Yeah.
a fact. And you are going to reach, some sort of issue, either physical, emotional, or mental, because, you know, I think there is this illusion that you can just keep, living like with all these unhealthy habits and nothing is going to happen to you. But, and I love when people say, yeah, but my grandmother, she lived until she was 98 and she drank a glass of wine every single day. It's like, yes, your grandmother lived in a completely different world than what we live now. And even if you think about the alcohol these days, it's full of chemicals,
Yeah.
which before, 98 years ago, it wasn't so much like that,
Yeah.
so there is so much into it that people don't think about. And when I say think about it, is really bringing consciousness to it, right? The companies are not going to stop selling alcohol. You're not going to stop being invited to parties where everybody drinks and get drunk. It is up to each individual to assess and go, okay, this is not serving me anymore. I can make a decision here.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to give yourself that power to decide. So, an activity that I like to do with my clients is make a list of pros and cons. Like, what does alcohol give you? Does it make you feel good? Does it really take the edge off? Does it make you feel social? And then, make a cons list. Like, I'm so tired of the hangovers. I spend so much
Yeah.
money. Like, actually making a conscious decision. Like, you don't have to quit drinking. Nobody has to. Like, you get to choose this healthy, loving relationship with yourself. I feel like once you kind of reframe that and put it in perspective versus I have to, like, if I want to live, if I don't want this
Yeah.
cancer to go away, I have to, versus, I'm getting a second chance at life. I get to do this amazing thing for my body. Then it kind of makes
Reframing.
it different.
Yeah, that's very powerful, reframing that. And for me, yeah, it was very, very apparent that, if I wanted to keep cancer at bay and really create health in my body, I needed to let that habit to go. I couldn't have both, and I needed to make different choices. And again, a lot of people think, oh my God, but you blamed yourself, as because you said, the cancer, you have been doing things that wasn't good for you. It's not about blaming myself. It's about being honest with myself. There was no point in sugarcoating in my relationship with alcohol. It was dysfunctional. I couldn't even now, I couldn't drink one beer. Before I know I'll be drinking two. Before I know I'll be drinking three. Before I know I'll drinking four. So that ability to be honest with yourself and go, what? Actually, I can't handle the moderation. Besides, moderation, our society can mean quite a lot of different things, which is, not really moderation.
Yeah.
But I can't do that. So therefore, I need to choose something different for myself, which is, like you're saying, is much more empowering, right?
Right. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people, when they first quit drinking, it's a have to, and they also don't change anything else about what they're doing. So they are bored. They are feeling, tempted,
Yes.
triggers. So there's so much more to it than just saying, I'm not going to drink anymore. You've got to
Yeah.
come up with what else, what are you going to do with all that time that you have now? Are you going to say
Clarity. Yeah.
those happy hours? You learn a lot about yourself. I'm going to continue to learn about myself until the day I die. And I love that.
Yeah.
Recently I've discovered that I'm not huge on traveling. Like, I've traveled, here and there. And, I was drinking during all of those trips, and I took a sober trip recently and I was like, I don't really enjoy this. I'm kind of homesick. I really do love my house and I love that
Yeah.
security and safety. But, again, it kind of goes back to society. Like, oh, you got to be a world traveler. That's when you've
Yeah.
hit it. And that's you're successful and you're like in this elite group or whatever, and being okay with who you are and owning that and loving that about yourself. It's just this lifelong journey that you go on, finding more out about yourself, because like you said, you have this clarity now. You listen to your body, you notice things, intuition increases, you're just paying more attention to every little thing, whereas before you're just so numb to it, you weren't noticing anything. In fact, you probably have full memories.
Yeah, exactly. How do you help your clients through the whole, the friends that are around them, that there is this fear, I'm gonna be left, without, by myself at home, not doing anything because all my friends, they drink, and sometimes you're saying like my partner, husband, wife, also drink, and who am I? What am I going to do if this goes away?
Yeah. It's really hard in the beginning, because there's that fear of missing out that comes up. You see your friends on Facebook or Instagram posting pictures of, they went out on Friday night or they're having, brunch or whatever. And you kind of feel like life is just passing you by because here you are, you've chosen to be sober. But everybody's still out there having fun. Again, it kind of goes back to the fun thing. But in the beginning, you have really got to protect your sobriety. Like, it has got to be one of the most important things that you focus on, I'd say, for at least a year. I mean, you're gonna be tempted. You're gonna be like, you know what? It's been 3 months. I got this. I can do this. And you go into a birthday party or a happy hour and you don't have a plan and you feel super nervous and somebody asks, what can I get you to drink? You could cave, and then it's all over, and then you start with shame and you're angry at yourself. So take things so slow. You want to reintroduce your sober self to your friends and into society and things, but take things slow. Some of my clients are very social butterflies, and it just drives them bonkers not being able to be with their friends. But we've found all of these alternative things that they can do in the meantime. They're discovering more about themselves. There's workshops they can attend. They've created this cool little meditation corner in their room, and so they're spending time doing that. They're journaling. They're they're stepping outside of their normal. The normal go-to is, go spend 6 hours drinking with my friends. So now they're spending more time with their friend, or not their friends, their family, with themselves, building relationships, for so long. Like when I would put my kids to bed, I'm reading them a book and I'm like trying to get through the book as fast as I can so I can go back to my drink, and now it's, I'm cherishing time with them and spending like actual quality time with them. So it can be really hard.
That's so important.
The fear I think is really big, and
like I said, the protection of your sobriety is really important. It's like people, who want to lose the weight, you can't protect your health if you've got your cupboard full of biscuits and chocolate and ice cream. Let's face it. Nobody is going to be strong enough to say no to all of that in a journey of losing the weight. So it's the same thing. Like, why would you put yourself, in the first weekend after you decide to stop drinking, into a party where all your friends are going to be drunk?
Yep, exactly.
It's not a weakness. It's just that you were choosing yourself. And at that time, especially at the beginning, it's best that you choose to protect your sobriety, which I think it's so important. What you said, that like And those little choices starts compounding so much
Yeah.
because it starts strengthening you, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly. You get more confident in yourself. And I mean, over time you can gradually,
yeah,
reintroduce things, maybe an hour here, 30 minutes there. And you're building this, what I call like your sober muscles. You're getting more
yeah,
confident walking into these types of social situations completely sober. You're realizing, this is actually boring. And, maybe you're
yeah,
making a conscious decision like, this just isn't for me. This isn't my way
yeah,
forward. This isn't who I am anymore. And that's
yeah.
okay. And that's actually a great revelation to have.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you touch on something about the kids, and the family. I found myself being very, because when you drink, by the time you drink on a Thursday, on a Friday, on a Saturday, on a Sunday, you wake up, hangover, and you're less patient with your
Oh
kids.
my God. Yes.
And you become, more grumpy, a more grumpy wife, like I was, like, because basically it is affecting your mental state, and it's just chipping away at the back, but you are not really acknowledging, and you don't want to acknowledge at the beginning that it is the alcohol that is making you tired, exhausted, grumpy,
Yep.
impatient with your kids. For me, a big part of a big motivator for me at the beginning to change was that I needed to change for my kids. Um, how do you see that with your clients? That relationship changing, with their families, and how do they show up, as this different person for their family?
Um, for some of my clients, they're just more honest. They own up to their mistakes, but they
Wow.
develop a more close relationship because of that
Yes.
honesty, because of that vulnerability. I mean, I've done it with my own kids. I sat them down after
Beautiful.
I got sober and told them exactly what was going on. This was my life, and I'm sure, I mean, that's all they knew. That's what they grew up. So they didn't realize that that's not normal. And so telling them
Yes.
like that's actually not normal. So things are going to be done a little differently. I just want you to know that I will be, um, I'm always going to be here. It's just, I just can't explain the closeness, the respect
Wow.
I've gained from them, the
Yes.
the honesty, like they're completely honest with me, which is actually super cute, when they get in trouble.
Oh.
Um,
How
but
old
it's,
were they when you actually sat them down and told them?
let's see, my youngest was 8
Wow.
and my oldest was 12.
Amazing. That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
so brave. And like I said, I can imagine that that is just gonna be an amazing lessons learned for them through you.
Yeah.
Such a solid foundation of so many different things, right? Like not just your relationship with alcohol, but like how to be vulnerable, how you can show up to
Right. Exactly.
yourself, how not to numb your emotions, how to deal with your trauma, all of it, right? Like what you would taught them there, it's like bang bang, like
Yeah.
life changing, right?
Right. My parents never talked to me that way. They didn't explain, drugs or alcohol or sex or like, I didn't even know
Yeah,
how to put a tampon in the first time I got a period. It was like not that
yes,
kind of relationship. So I want this completely open and honest relationship, total transparency. They're both like, and I even said to them, like, I would never shun you if you decided to drink, but I just want you to have like all the facts. Like this is what it does to
yeah,
you. And I'm
yeah,
very aware of, who they're hanging out with and what they could be
yes,
susceptible to. Like I've gotten to know them at such a granular level that, I know what could trigger them. I know what they're susceptible to, things like that. And
yeah,
teaching them, like, there's other ways to handle your stress. Like, you want to numb out.
Yes, I
You want to
know.
play video games all night because you're stressed from school. Like, that's not healthy. Like, let's talk about,
Yes,
mindfulness. Like, let me show you how to meditate. Let me show
yes,
you, like, you love to work out. Like, let's go for a run.
yeah,
Whatever, like, meets their personality. Like, emphasize that. As a parent, it is your responsibility to teach them healthy coping mechanisms instead of,
yeah.
well, I've had a long day, so I deserve this wine. That's not teaching them anything healthy.
That is so powerful. And I had this conversation with my kids as well about alcohol and drugs because my husband's brother was a heroin addict, and it's something that my husband is very passionate about. And to explain to the kids that journey, and and the alcohol, now my kids know I don't drink and why I don't drink, and I explain to them why I don't drink. And yeah, exactly that. I'm not saying not to do it anymore, but those are the facts. And you are going to be exposed to it, and you're going to be able to make your own decision, because I'm not going to be there everywhere
Right.
with you. And it's going to be your choice at the end of the day. But this is the facts. And like you said, I think as a kid, I was never shown how to deal with my emotions and stress, and I think that's one of the most important, skills that we need to teach our kids these days, right? Because
Yes.
of that, I started drinking. Because of that, you think that we're all gonna find some sort of coping mechanism, and when you are in your teenagers' years, it's so easy to go down that road because everybody's doing that. If you don't know anything else, like my mom and dad was super stressed when we lost everything, and they never exercised. They were all overweight. They never exercised. They didn't do any meditation. I mean, they were not. It was just like chaos.
Yeah.
So I just thought, and actually, in actual fact, they didn't drink. My mom and dad. I was the only one who drank in my house, but I needed to find my own, and I found the wrong solution, to the problem, because I wasn't shown anything else.
Exactly.
And like I think what you said is very, very powerful. It is our job to teach our kids how to deal with stress and the emotions, because life is going to be stressful
Yeah.
at some
And
point.
let them express their emotions. I feel like
Yeah.
boys, I have boys, so boys especially, like, they're not allowed to cry. They're not allowed to
Yes.
show some of these more feminine emotions. And I say that's total BS. Like, they have got to be able to express themselves.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to turn to something that they can numb out on, whether that's drugs or alcohol or video games or whatever it is. Everybody's got their vice.
Yeah. That's amazing. Molly, I mean, that's your story is so powerful. I'm so happy that to have you here. I am very passionate about that, and I think you articulated so many powerful parts of your story that can help people out there. Like, if there is one thing that you could say to somebody who, when you keep getting drunk and drinking, and but deep down you have that inner voice telling you, like, you've got to stop this, and that you've got to do that, and I know you're scared, but you've got to stop this. What would you say to that person who is kind of on that fence, like not knowing what the first step is?
Yeah.
What would you say to that person?
I feel like for me and for all of my clients, and I'm sure yours as well, having somebody that you can talk to about it is key.
Yeah,
Because, I mean, if all of your friends are drinking, it's
yeah,
ingrained at work, it's in society, you're going to feel completely alone. And that
yeah,
it's a bad place to be if you're trying to get sober, is feeling completely alone. There's people all over the internet. There's lots of sober groups. You've got Angelica, you've got me.
yes,
I am just a person. I am not above anybody. I would talk to anybody any day about, how to get sober, what you can do, steps you can take. There's a lot of books, get yourself educated, what alcohol is doing to your body. That can be really powerful to, kind of flip that switch. There's all sorts of meetings. Like, it doesn't have to be AA. There's all sorts of alternative meetings. There's spiritual meetings. If you're, religious, there's church meeting. Like, there's just so much out there. Just get on Google and start looking things up. And before you know it, you'll have a path, and make sure you're making that conscious decision. That's really powerful to you.
Yeah. And I think having somebody like yourself, it's very, very powerful, because like I said at the beginning, I think when you work with somebody who has gone through the exact same thing that you're trying to achieve, there is no doctors out there. There is no, people out there that haven't walked that path that can tell you better on how to walk that path in a different way. And I think that, reaching out to Molly, if you're listening to this, it would be a step, a powerful step, because, Molly has shared with us her story here, and it's powerful because she's on the other side. How many years have you been sober now, Molly?
It'll be 4 in September.
Wow, that's amazing. Well done. Well done, you. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So I will add your details so people can reach out to you, all your socials, so people can reach out to you. And I think, it's, thank you. So I can't thank you enough. I think your story is very, very powerful. It's very real as well. I think it's so easy for us to think that, a person who is struggling with alcohol abuse it's that person, that is homeless, that lost everything. And there are an enormous amount of people who are high functioning, living in our society, that we might be meeting every single day. It might be our friend, that they are struggling with alcohol. And like I said, we don't know, because people came to you and said, I didn't know you were struggling with alcohol, because you were holding everything together.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. For being here. Take care, Molly.
All right. Thank you.